Hi, I'm Patty McGarrahan, and this is the Mindz Eye. And I'm here today with Tara Devine, and she's come to me. She took classes with me early on in her career in Reiki and hypnosis, and now she has got a hypnosis practice that is doing a lot of little different things that I'm very excited about. So go ahead, Tara, and just explain some of what you're doing.
Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I took my first hypnosis class with you at Mindz Eye, and my reason for going into that class was one thing, and as I learned about it, it really took me in a whole nother direction. And yeah, so what led me there was I was already a Reiki practitioner, Reiki master. I took my first Reiki class way back in the 90s.
Moby Dick was a minnow.
And also tarot and these kinds of things, and found that my clients and those things, at least the clients that were coming to me, were having a common theme of they couldn't get out of their own way. And so once I was introduced to hypnosis, took me in a different direction. I was like, oh, I think this is really going to add to my desire to help people get out of their own way. Your
niche, huh?
Yeah. So I went on and went deeper into my studies and went into not just hypnosis, but hypnotherapy. And so now I'm seeing clients and really helping them to get unstuck in their life and to manifest a life that they desire, that they have all the ability to do. They just haven't been able to do it so far.
And who were your studies with, just because out of nosiness?
So after I studied with you, I went on to study the Grace Method Hypnotherapy School.
Okay.
Which actually what led me to that was your class required a book, for me to read a book, and the woman who owns that school wrote the book that I read for your class.
Excellent.
And so she has her own school going really into the therapy. It was a long certification. And since then I've gone on to study with Elaine Midas, and that's where I've learned even more techniques. And now I have an actual system. So now what I'm doing for my clients is designing programs. So I have the client come in for a free consultation, which I have a set of questions. And with anything that we do, there's at least some sort of pre-talk.
Correct.
Explaining what we do and why, what brought you to the situation. So that's part of that. And then from there, as I get to know your desires, I design a program, and my clients now are working with me one-on-one anywhere from 9 to 12 weeks in their custom program.
I have the attention span of a flea, so I'm the one 2 session wonder girl.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, this program, whereas when I was doing hypnotherapy with my prior certification, as the clients would come in and they'd come in for their follow-up, it would be like a whole nother issue. So as you're clearing limiting beliefs and clearing stuck emotions, other emotions are going to rear their heads, right? So this is a system already knowing that that's going to happen. And so we clear the stuck emotions first, and then the limiting beliefs, and it's a system. So there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. So there's no, for lack of a better term, there's no wasted time of what do you want to work on now? I already know what we're going to work on.
Beautiful.
And the clients are getting amazing results.
Oh, I love it. Give an example of some of the things that people are stuck on.
So people think that they're stuck on, habits, dare I say addictions, or wanting to manifest love, wanting to manifest abundance in their life, and they think that's the issue. And a lot of times there's a higher level issue. So that's why I have these programs. So what's keeping you from getting these things? We all have the same amount of time in the day. We all have opportunities. And I noticed with my other, as you put, tools in my toolbox, with
my favorite saying,
with Reiki and intuition and so forth, we all have abilities and strengths, but sometimes subconscious is holding on to a belief that thinks it's protecting us, which is actually sabotaging our desires.
Okay.
So that's the part, among others,
And what are some of those beliefs that are sabotaging?
unworthiness.
Unworthiness, okay.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't even realize that that's what it is. And so as you uncover that and we see how worthy you actually are, then we let go of the limits and we get out of our own
I do
way.
the different systems, but every once in a while, I can imagine with that, you get those light bulb moments where sometimes I just see the person, the light bulb goes on. Do you know what I mean? Because I do things like virtual gastric band, job multi-sessions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I may be all of a sudden told that I need to do something specific,
Yeah.
you know, the third and fourth session. And you watch this light bulb light, and it's a beautiful thing.
Oh,
'Cause you know,
absolutely. My heart fills when I see a client and they are amazed at themselves.
yes.
You know, and I mean, there's so many misconceptions out there about hypnotherapy, and some of those misconceptions are that it's mind control, when in fact you are in total control during hypnosis. You are actually even more highly aware. It's just that you're relaxed. One of my teachers defines hypnosis as meditation with a goal. So it's
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, so it's like if you've meditated before, then you know how to get into that relaxed. It's actually a brainwave state. So when we're up and productive, I know you know all this, when we're up and productive, our brain waves are functioning at a beta brainwave state. And when you're daydreaming, your brain waves go into alpha. So the goal with hypnotherapy is to get your brain waves into a state of theta,
Yep.
because that's where you can bypass the critical factor of the mind. So the monkey mind that's talking you out of everything. You know, I want to lose weight, I want to quit smoking, I want to get a better job, I want to make more money, but something's talking you out of it. So this is a way that you can shut down that monkey brain, bypass that, and get into the
I
subconscious.
love the way you word things. I love it.
Thank you.
It's very
Thank you.
specific.
So I'm just really, really enjoying.
I could tell by her posts. I could tell by her posts and everything how excited you were. And when you have that kind of feeling in it, right now I'm getting that more with group mediumship. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've got somebody coming in that's eventually going to take over a lot of my hypnosis and Reiki.
Well, the bottom line is your gifts in mediumship, my practice with the hypnotherapy and all these other tools, you know, the bottom line is offering healing and to help people.
Absolutely.
And when you see that someone is being healed and being helped, it's so moving.
I still like to do hypnosis. I just find that when I did hypnobirthing years ago, when I did hypnobirthing with groups, I loved it when I got the people that wanted it. But I hated it when it was like the yuppie checklist to take it.
Well, that's the thing with hypnotherapy. You have to want to make change. But if you want to make change and you do this program, you will come out of it, number one, a different person. But number two, I love that there's, you know, I love, like I said, Reiki readings, working with my intuition. I love the mystical. But this also has science to it. You come out with an actual changed brain because you're actually paving new neural pathways that your life, before you did the hypnotherapy, then it's like your thought process is, it's almost an addiction. If you have struggle or challenge in your life, your conscious mind's going, I'm not addicted to that. I didn't want that. I didn't want these challenges. But the thing is, your brain is familiar with it, so that's what's easier for your brain, and that's why you self-sabotage yourself. When you pave neural pathways, new neural pathways, which is what we do in this form of hypnotherapy, all of a sudden, your brain starts becoming, it's easier to find the easier way. It's easier to see opportunities that were there the whole time, but now you're not sabotaging yourself out of it. Your timing is better. Your relationships improve because your overall energy is better, because you're actually changing the way the reticular activation system in your brain is responding.
And basically, another way to put it too is you've got the subconscious telling the critical mind what the new you is.
Exactly.
Do you know what the new normal is?
Exactly.
And that way they take it, and it's
Exactly.
like I said, I love doing certain things with it, but there's other things that I have a problem. I used to have a lady that if it was like 6 sessions or more, she took them because of my attention span. And it's not that I don't love my clients and I don't want them all healed, but sometimes I find that my head goes off into another direction, and they need somebody more like you who is
right. Well,
there's
different types of sessions as well. I mean, I had a client last week that said, you know what, I had a hypnotherapist years ago that I went to for months, and we didn't do anything like this. Because in my sessions, because I have this system, so my sessions aren't always going into deep trance. Sometimes there's just an exercise that we're doing, and if that particular emotion that we're working on that week, if that's not an issue for you, then the session can go by like that. Sometimes when we get deeply relaxed and we shut down our monkey brain, we discover, that
I'm going to use that monkey brain. I am going to steal that from you because I love it.
Yeah, because that's what it is. It's like there's sometimes that part of your brain that just seems like it's jumping around and doesn't have any direction. And then you're like, how do I shut that down? And a lot of times that manifests into anxiety.
And I think even there's nobody that doesn't at some point have that monkey brain.
Exactly. It's part of the human experience. However, some people, it manifests into chronic anxiety.
Perfectly.
So when we have that neural pathway of chronic anxiety, it's very difficult to get out of it and to have a life that we desire without getting into the subconscious mind, without bypassing that critical factor of the mind.
When I go into the monkey brain, as I said, I just love that term. When I go into that brain like 2 o'clock in the morning, like when you're overthinking foolishness over and over again, I don't stay there. I'm not a person that stays there. Do you know what I mean? So I take 3 breaths, hold them for 5 seconds.
Well, because you know how to meditate.
And I know
how to get your brain waves.
But do you know, sometimes I have to have a client come in that I have to tell that to before, and I'll say, oh my gosh, I've stayed up 2 nights in a row and I didn't do the breathing that I know what to do. Most of the time I catch it. But every once in a while, we all have those anxiety times, but that makes perfect sense that certain people would have an addiction to certain things. I had someone close to me that I had to explain to her that she was always broke because her favorite saying was, I only have $2 in my checking account. And she probably said it 10 times a day.
Right.
And
so
as soon as she stopped,
that's a limiting
bada boom.
belief. If you have a belief that you can only have a certain amount in your checkbook, people think it's magical, but it's not magical, it's science. There's a part of your brain that's going to sabotage any more. That's your cap. And then all of a sudden you wonder why you get an unexpected bill or something goes wrong with your car. It's because you have this belief that that's your cap. And so by going into your subconscious, you can change that belief and you can bring your cap up. So there's that. But I mean, another misconception about hypnosis and hypnotherapy, some people think they can't be hypnotized.
I get that a lot.
So
that's a challenge to
when
me.
Right. So when someone says that, then I say, that's because you think hypnosis is what Hollywood portrays it to be. When actually you're in hypnosis multiple times a day, naturally. It's just a brainwave state that your body goes into naturally multiple times a day. When you're first waking up in the morning and you're not yet active. When you're falling asleep at night. When you're pull up to your house and you don't remember the route. How did I get here?
Absolutely.
But you know you were highly aware getting there, That's highway hypnosis. So when you watch a movie, I mean, all types of people have watched a movie, and the conscious mind knows its actors pretending to be someone else, and that it's a production,
Right.
But as you get into that movie, if it's a movie that you enjoy, how many times have you laughed out loud, or jumped in fear, or cried real tears during a movie?
I just did it for Thor.
Yeah, but your conscious mind knew it was fake. Your subconscious mind accepted it as real.
Absolutely.
So the hypnotherapy that I do is giving the subconscious mind suggestions of things that you actually want in your life.
Yes. I went to see Thor, and I ended up crying like a baby. I loved the action between Thor and this little girl in it. And then I read the next day it was his own daughter. I could feel that energy because I'm empathic too, but I felt it. And I went into the movie like I was part of the movie. And hypnosis. I explained to a lady the other day too that one of the reasons that we're in hypnosis so much during the day, and it was so funny, I explained all the things that we just talked about, like plus some, you know, that I say when I've got a client to explain to them hypnosis. And it's just like, it was kind of like la, 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 la. And then I turned to her and I said, do you know, remember when she was an older woman, so I knew she'd remember this. But I said, remember when they had that elevator music in the grocery stores? Music. I said, did you realize that there were subliminal messages that were telling you to buy the stuff on the end caps and everything? And that became illegal because so many people, you know, were doing it. So it just lets you know that it is something that you're in that state so often. When you're doing it.
That's why a lot of times, you know, you'll get your best ideas in the shower or when you're driving. It's because your brain waves, you were relaxed to a place where you weren't having that judgment, that negative self-talk and that judgment coming in. Once you can quiet all that stuff down, there's some good stuff in there. You know, and like I said, your opportunities start appearing and your timing gets better. And it's just really, it's amazing to see the results.
No, as I said, I could just tell by your posts on Facebook how this was coming from your heart.
I appreciate that.
And it just, it moved me. And
well, I'm just really moved when I see, you know, these clients have these revelations that, you know, that they can transform and they come out empowered. I mean, who doesn't want to be empowered? Who doesn't want to improve their business or improve their relationships, whether it be with their kids or their partner, or the most important relationship is with yourself. And when you improve that, the ripple effect is amazing.
And someone that will commit to that multi-sessions want to do something.
Absolutely.
Which is terrific.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you're not going to come to it without wanting the result. You know, and I mean, there's some things that you can get a result in a one and done session, but those underlying stuck emotions, once they come back, that issue's going to come back. So that's why my sessions now is getting rid of that stuff first, and getting back to that theta brainwave state. Science has shown that we are actually only in the theta brainwave state up until around age 7, and that's where we get a lot of these limiting beliefs. I mean, you look at a child, and it doesn't always have to be trauma. It doesn't always have to be scary. You know, that's another misconception. It's like, you know, it doesn't have to be that. It could be something as simple as a child seeing their mother and seeing the smile go off their face when they outshine a sibling. They could have just taken that one little moment and said, I have to reduce my talent.
Excuse me, kill me over here.
So, and we've all had these kinds of moments in our lives, and not everyone gets a limiting belief from that. But a lot of times, because you're only in the theta brainwave state up until age 7, you're only in your subconscious, that's where you get your habits, your values, your beliefs, you know, and you know, our involuntary bodily functions are from our subconscious.
And that's a lot of times when kids are little and somebody jokingly calls them pudgy or something, and then they have the weight trauma later on too.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes with something like, you know, you're talking about being called pudgy or having a weight issue. Something could have happened if, you know, say if someone's really struggling with a weight issue and their conscious mind has tried everything, but something in them keeps sabotaging it, and they say, I don't know why I can't do it. There might be a limiting belief in there that, you know, they needed that weight to protect them from something.
Absolutely. I had a woman that I did virtual gastric band, which I learned from Sheila Granger from England. And I love this program, but it's hard. There's only 2 teachers in the world for it. Sheila and her best friend in Canada. So England and Canada, so it's hard. So she did come to Florida to train on it, and I did train on that. And I had this woman that she had come to a lot of different things that I had done for weight loss. Saturday morning, we did different hypnosis. Sometimes it was drink water, a whole series. And I gave them the discs so they could replay and stuff like that. And this one woman, she wanted it so bad and it wasn't happening. After a divorce, she tied up with a man. And this is just like a cool explanation for what you're talking about. She tied up with a man. She fell in love with his children and she was helping bringing up his children. But he wanted the Barbie doll on the arm. He was very verbally abusive. So she'd pull away from them and the kids would call her crying that they wanted her back in the life. So what she ended up doing was putting on weight so she could hang with the kids and not have to deal with him. Because if she wasn't Miss Bobby, he didn't want her. And that's how she finally handled it. Now the kids are grown up with grandchildren who she feels are her grandchildren. And she isn't able to, you know what I mean?
Because that was a limiting belief that she picked up, that this weight was going to improve her life.
So it was the strangest thing. I was going one way with the 4th session, and I actually shifted a whole different way with the 4th session, which that has very open-armed, you can do POTS therapy and past life and this, that, and the other thing, and open arms therapy. And I got to tell you something, it's been probably 10 years since I did that on her, and she's never had a weight problem since.
Awesome. I love
but again, it was that beautiful realization, and I know how happy that made me, so I can understand where.
Yeah, and you mentioned POTS therapy. That's a term that we use in hypnosis, as you know, but I don't know if your viewers do. And it's just amazing. I've had times in my life where I'm like, well, that's, I guess that's just the way I am, or there's just part of me that just, that just does that. But where in hypnotherapy, we can actually take that part out, and being that we're so relaxed, the client can have a conversation with that part. And they're having the conversation. I'm not doing it. I'm just guiding you through it. And you have a conversation with that part, and you get rid of whatever needs to be said, and that part can be transformed. If it's a part of you that is fear of getting ahead in life, fear of relationships, fear of losing weight, whatever's causing that person anxiety. And this isn't all of hypnotherapy, it's one small part of it, but the client can talk to that part that's fear.
That's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, me too, I love it. And they can actually say, thank you for trying so hard to help me, but you're hurting me, and transform it into whatever the client decides. It could be peace personified. It could be, that's left to be discovered in the sessions.
Absolutely.
In the sessions. But it's just an amazing process.
I agree with you so much on that, because...
And that's only one small part of hypnotherapy.
Oh, teeny bit.
Yeah.
But that one thing I found, and a lot of other things that I have found that's really helped a lot is getting rid of those, because I have had an experience that was very strong in my life that created havoc before I got into all this stuff. And it turned out that I put out a contract out into the universe, and when I put out the contract, it was something that I had to deal with, and I dealt with in this lifetime. But even after I dealt with it in this lifetime, Tara, I think until the realization took place, and I did the past life regression and saw it, and said, oh my gosh, I was a little child and I asked if I could save my mother against indecision of my father. And the same people in different ways in my life, do you know what I mean? A father in one, husband in another, that kind of stuff, different roles. But the roles shifted, and I was able to do that, and it put it through. But there's also another way to do that, is to get rid of the contract if it's no longer of your highest good. Yeah. So I carried from the 1600s a contract to 2000.
Yeah.
that didn't need to be carried all that time.
That's amazing.
And seeing that in my own life, it's exciting when you figure out things about yourself at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it made me realize, so it's given me a little more skill working with my clients in a lot of different respects, hypnosis, but also readings and stuff like that.
That's a beautiful
it's amazing.
Story. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. But that's the thing too. I mean, it might not always be, you know, you might say, well, I don't, you know, it's not limiting beliefs for me. But in that story that you just told, you said you started to see a pattern of whatever, you know, whatever it may be in your, you know, relationships with, you know, anyone. You start to see patterns and you say, why does this always happen to me? You know, and it's like I was saying earlier with my clients with Reiki and with you know, the intuitive sessions and so on, the theme is, you know, why does this always happen to me? It's because you're creating it.
Absolutely.
And you may not be consciously creating it, but the subconscious thinks it's protecting you from something else. So if you want to tell your subconscious, I don't need this protection anymore, I want to change this, then hypnotherapy is a really great way.
Absolutely.
To stop those patterns.
And I've worked with soul contracts too, on removing the soul contracts to try to get some of that gone too, which I have found very helpful.
Yeah.
And that particular lady, she put out a contract that she didn't need carried in this lifetime and possibly carried in another lifetime. So we also took care of the contract as well.
That's great. I love that. Yeah.
So that was that. I didn't need to. At least I feel I didn't need to. It was so funny because once I had the realization where this came from, and they met, and it was so crazy because there were even things like my daughter in this lifetime's eyes rolled at the person, just like the eyes rolled in the other lifetime. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, interesting.
So there was enough kind of funny things, humorous stuff that kept me plugging. And at the end of the whole thing, and it was my shaman that worked with me on this. The shaman, she was also a hypnotherapist as well.
Yeah.
And we worked on this, and it was just totally amazing. And it's part of why I got hooked on hypnotherapy to begin with.
Yeah.
Because, but some of the correlations I didn't realize till almost 10 years later. And I had the aha moment, which makes me help with you, where you actually, it sounds like you got that aha moment sooner than you got a little quicker than me.
Well, I mean, aha moments are subjective. It depends on the person. Mm-hmm. But you just reminded me of another thing, like you were talking about the number of sessions. Every person, every desire is going to be a different number of sessions. Mm-hmm. But on the topic of sessions, there's actually a statistic by, I think it's American Health Magazine, that when it comes to goals like this, when it working with, you know, what's keeping you stuck, regular talk therapy, there's an absolute need for that, no debating it. And hypnotherapy is a wonderful adjunct to that in some cases. But when it comes to goals like this, talk therapy takes 600 sessions to get a 38% improvement.
Wow.
Because it's all conscious talking and reliving and keeping those neural pathways alive. Hypnotherapy, 6 sessions, 93% improvement.
Excellent.
Because you're not talking and reliving it. You're going into relaxation.
That makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. I thank you so much for being here.
I
this
thank
went by
you
so
so
fast.
much. Oh, I'm
this
so
went by
happy
so
to be
fast.
here.
So we thank you for coming. And where, just quickly, if you can say where your office is located.
Tollgate Road, Warwick, Rhode Island. Yeah.
And
also online. I do Zoom appointments as well.
She does Zoom appointments.
Yes.
So this is Tara Devine, and if you have troubles getting a hold of her, ask me.
Can I say my social name?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sea Glass Hypnosis on socials.
Excellent, excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.